questions. Since there has recently been some transition within the board and administration, I was hoping that once again you would see the value in taking some time as individuals as well as a group to evaluate or reevaluate and reflect upon your very important job. How do you see yourself managing and serving the students, community, and staff within our district? When you make the many important decisions you have to make, for whom are you making them? Do you see yourself as someone who serves or rules? Do you plan to be an impulsive or research decision maker? Will you vote with the crowd or be an authentic, independent thinker? Once again, this is a newer board with a renewed slate when it comes to how you lead this district, with regards to how you treat our students, staff, administrators, community members, and each other. Will you see the students as central to each decision? Will you see the staff and administration for the professionals that they are and use their feedback and experience to help you make informed decisions? Will you communicate with and listen to the members of this community and work hard to do what is best for this district's mission, educating students? In your interactions with each other, how will you model behaviors that we all expect of the students within this district? Will you see this refreshing new start for the significant opportunity it provides to you in your critical role as a decision maker for this district? At this time, there are many critical decisions that lie in your hands. Finding a permanent treasurer, permanent superintendent, and pupil personnel director are three of these critical issues. Until these leadership positions are filled with top-notch individuals who have been clearly vetted, I am concerned about the stability we can provide to our students and community. First, it is clear that this board needs to lead the community into calmer, more stable waters so that we can attract high-quality candidates. Next, I am hoping you will utilize all of the resources available to you in order to make sure that your decisions in filling these positions are well researched and vetted. I also wanted to take a moment to thank all of the teachers and support staff for continuing to provide excellence in education, even in the face of all the chaos that has happened since January. And I hope you as board members also acknowledge their professionalism. I'm hoping as I continue to look to all, I'm hopeful as I continue to look to all of you board members for the positive impact that you can make to bring WestGBrd back to center so that we can continue our path of distinction. And off script, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you very much also for this vote that you just made, as I think that it's starting to bring us back to center in a way. And thank you for acknowledging those students. And again, I thank you for your consideration. And I'll give a copy to Sean.
Hello, my name is I live on 147 Rush Road in Richmond, Pennsylvania. My comment will be to thank the board. The decision that you have just made has brought me back to WestG for another year, and I am eternally thankful. You could have said no. You have blessed me with another year. So I thank the entire board. Thank you.
Bill Beers, 11481 Chapin Street, Chesterland, Ohio. And I just want to comment on the open enrollment like you guys haven't heard enough about it. But I mentioned at the last board meeting, Jackie, that you were at, that I've got like 40 graphs to talk about enrollment and the trends. Saturday night was a boring night for me, so I decided to go the next step. And I've taken the enrollment, the forecasts, and the staffing. I've got it all in a spreadsheet so that you can play with the spreadsheet, change the number of students that are going in, change the number of student-teacher ratio that you want to have, and it'll spit out beautiful graphs for you that'll make it easy for you to see how many open enrollment students would make sense from strictly a numbers standpoint, and I will be adding in the finance training there as well. I've already mentioned to Mr. Nutter that I have the spreadsheet going, and for the rest of you, if you'd like to see it, let me know.
Thanks.
I've been here since January, as I stated. I believe in March, Jackie, you were given numbers. People were here, so way late, and then by about 10
you all decided to take a vote on the cap. I know it's irrelevant now, but I know going on that this is just a band-aid to make peace and a pamphlet for these people that are going to cap. You're the one who changed these numbers that the superintendent is giving you because I'm here at the meeting. And all of these tapes are on Yahoo, or not Yahoo, what do they call it? YouTube. So if you want to get any of that, you should go back and look at the board minutes. Nothing's ever posted, but if you go back to the YouTube, these are all taped. You can't hide anything. Do your research before you come in here. Because sometimes we hear what we want to hear, but I have to go back and look at that. And that was one of the things. And for Mr. Hunter, the question is, I read that you left Green School to pursue a business of your own, and you were leaving education. This was last year, and you resigned in July of this next week. Is that correct?
Yeah, we get finished in July.
So I guess my question is, you were pursuing a different avenue, and I don't know you, and I don't want to judge you, but I just wanted to know how you ended up here the same day that Mr. Palmer resigned and became our acting interim.
Why I do consulting, this is just an interim. I don't want this long term.
I know, but I just didn't understand how that all kind of went right into place. And I guess I don't have a lot of faith in the board right now. They've proven to have a different agenda. They stated openly. I'm afraid that this open enrollment is going to go down the tubes later. But as far as the superintendent, I'm still baffled by this. And you were here the very night that they let Mr. Palmer leave or resign. And I just don't know how that all took place. Just how do you hire someone?
If I may.
Sure.
I believe as we continue with this, and I don't look to address each person that comes up. In and only that, I want you to express what you have to say, and we'll listen to it. It isn't an open forum. It isn't a community meeting. It's just one where you can tell us what's on your mind.
I did.
I believe it would be very important for the community to know some of the items and some of the things that have been said of this board as to why we've reacted. The best person to explain that would be our attorney. I believe that he should be at this next meeting to explain how we were introduced to Mr. Nutter, some of the open enrollment issues, and some of the things that we've sort of been accused of, or board members accused of. And that will be at our next meeting. Just as I had announced that we would talk about these children that were left behind, for lack of better terms, we will also have our attorney address those issues that publicly we've been accused of a board of being and having, I'm not finished, not having transparency. So those will be things that will allow him to address full-heartedly and sort of defend his board. Because if we as a board say nothing, then we're almost admitting that those things are true. And quite frankly, that's not the case. So I think it'll be a little bit more transparent as to some of the decisions we made. And in defense of Mrs. Vittori, there was a vote, and we voted. It may have been her idea what those caps would be, but this board voted. It wasn't her sole decision that we went with. It was a vote,
And I
we
get
voted
that,
for
but
it.
I don't like to hear, I don't know where those numbers came and why those letters went out late. They went out late because this board had a difficult time coming to an agreement, as it seems like in a lot of our cases. We come here and we hear a lot of bickering. The board is not even on the same page. And frankly, it's getting old. And it's just like, we got to keep in mind what we're here for. We're here for this community and first and foremost for the students. And my other concern, and I just want to get this out there because I live in this community, I pay taxes to everyone else, but Mr. Torrey, you missed an awful lot of meetings, and that's why you weren't apprised to everything, and it took longer. And my understanding is that you are at, I feel like there's a conflict of interest. I'm hearing this from a lot of younger parents in the community, I have older kids, that you are on a lot of things within the school as well as sitting on the board, and that you are at Westwood an awful lot, and you've had your own office there. I guess I just wanted to know if that was true, so I could ask you personally. That I don't know if it's true or not.
You know, again, this would be the last question and answer thing.
It's
And I'll
important
blame this
to
for
all
the
of
people
us.
that- Well,
It's
it's
important
important
to all
to
of
you,
us.
sure. But as a respect for the people that are here,
Sure.
I didn't do that for, you may answer that question.
Well, she wasn't here to ask last week when I was up here.
I will tell you that I actually take full offense to all the accusations that have been, that's the hardest one that I take the most to. Because I volunteer on average 60 to 80 hours a week. Morning, noon, and night, all I do is volunteer for children. It's my passion. It's what I did before I had kids. I used to raise money for children to help them go to inner city to schools where they wanted to get out of inner city schools.
Sure. Do you think it's a conflict?
I
Do you have
think
kids in this,
that-
in them sitting
No,
on
I
the board?
don't, because I think I was elected for that reason, because I am so involved in this community.
Okay.
That's
And
all.
do you have an office
I
there?
absolutely do not.
Okay.
PTO has a closet, a storage closet, that
You
any
don't have an
PTO
office?
board member can go in and work there.
That, see to clarify, thank you very much.
I'd like to address one thing that was brought up that I think is very important, and I'm not trying to cut you off, you're going to have a turn. One of the things that we have to do as a community, this is the board and the larger community that's in the room, and I am in a unique position because of the consulting work that I do for many different school districts throughout the region. Our reputation has taken a beating. I have, personally, it hurt on the inside that this school district has become the brunt of jokes throughout the region. When I remember when I moved here in 1993, this was the place to be. People wanted to be in this school district because they wanted to move to this community because of the school district. So it's at what point, and I don't know when it is, if it's tonight, tomorrow, or whatever, we're going to have to reconcile our differences so that we pull this in and this ugliness stops. Because I'm grateful that Mike Nutter, and again, this is not an endorsement of Mr. Nutter, but I am grateful that he is here because I don't think anybody else wants that job right now. And that's a shame because this is a great place to be. I've spoken to several different superintendents that they said, I would come to your place. And that's exactly what we need right now. We need leadership. We need somebody that is committed to children and committed to excellence. And that is not going to happen if somebody doesn't wave the white flag of, okay, let's move on. Let's figure out where we go from here. Because the outside world is watching and people are making decisions about all these prime openings that we have and no takers. I can't be wrong about that. Because like I said, I'm uniquely positioned where I'm hearing the chatter out here. And it pains me to think that how could this have happened to this community? And I do think it's not open enrollment was the devil. I do think how that issue has been handled, how we've talked about it, and the decisions that we've made around it. And that's why we need to go in a different and new direction. So, again, going to Mrs. Petronsky's point about, people are watching. Mrs. November's point, they're absolutely right. And that's why I voted the way that I did this evening to try to push us down the road of moving to normalcy and trying to regain some of that reputation that we've lost as a district. Because I still want this to be the place to teach, be, and attend as students. So thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off. Please come back.
Karen Miller, prior teacher at WestG for 30 years, and I agree wholeheartedly with all that you said about the pride. The only thing I would like to say is, I started Program Challenge in 80. But we had criteria. You have to have criteria that's based with your district. It doesn't matter what in my opinion, it doesn't matter what other districts are doing. You set your own criteria. You decide why is the enrollment dropping? When I hear you're talking about numbers and the upper grades being greater for open enrollment than in the little smaller grades, I thought that's where the enrollment was dropping, was in the younger grades. So in my mind, I would totally expect you to be bringing in numbers in the younger grades, because then that influences the entire future, and diminish the numbers in the higher grades, because you already have bigger numbers there. There's the issues of class size. That is so huge. There are issues of what programs we want to have, but and money available, but maybe we don't just have to bring in more money. Maybe there have to be cuts and more money brought in, a combination. And I strongly urge you to make your own criteria based on how to help this district from the bottom up and make it grow. And don't make it overwhelming, but minimize it, and with the opportunity of enlarging it later if you can. Thank you.
As you have further discussions on open enrollment, we become a much more informed community, because my second point is that after listening to Mrs. DeTore's numbers, I'm confused about whether or not there is a direct correlation between how we rank in the state standings vis-a-vis open enrollment figures, the percentage of same. So I'm hoping that later, as we talk about this at other school board meetings and we go out to the public, that we will get that information. Thank you.
Bad bug, he's back. Mike Kilroy, 9465 Marshall Run. I just wanted to say that part of making a decision going forward for the board, for the community, is you've got to have more complete information. And I know this survey has been a problem. And what's important to realize, I applaud the board for what they've done, why they did it. The survey didn't start until after the election, while the conversation was going on in September and October. Please don't blame this board for what the last board did. Also, the information from the Burgess group, I would like to have thought was more of a survey gathering data. But from the inside, now that I have the emails that went back and forth, it's clear that it was much different than a gathering of information, but an influencing of information. For example, in a Burgess email to the past superintendent, not given to the board, when we asked them what the district should do moving forward, the majority supported limiting open enrollment to adjacent districts only. It's just data for conversation, but it's never gotten out. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we need better information, more complete information, honest information. And it behooves the board to address issues in a variety of different areas. If you're ever going to get closure on so many different issues. I made copies of some of these emails if anybody would like them, because that's the first start in getting data out. Thank you.
Bernard Mandel, 8233, Whispering Pines Drive, losing my voice. I came up here for a specific reason, but I do have to make a couple of comments before that. With regard to Mr. Degurski, a comment was made as part of that lawsuit. Mr. Degurski was not part of that lawsuit. I'm a lawyer, by the way, so I interpret some of these things. He was not part of that lawsuit. He represented the school board that was being sued and then recused himself, so he did not represent it in the lawsuit. With regard to his bills, I have copies. By the way, I'll give anybody that wants to contact me the citation for that case, claims case, Madison Plains. With regard to Mr. Degurski's bills, under I requested documents. I have at home copies of his bills for the first 5 months. They're well in excess of $30,000. We've never spent more than $30,000 in a year that I know of. Most of them, if you take a look at them, by the way, if you want copies of these bills, I have copies, I'll give you copies of them, although you can probably get them from Shauna. And I'll give anybody else copies of the bills if you get in touch with me. Most of those bills are for attending meetings. We're the only district I know of, and I don't know if Mr. Nugget knows of any, but I don't, and the attorneys I've talked to don't know any other district that has an attorney come to every meeting, general or executive. You know anybody? I don't.
That's why he's not here tonight.
Right. Nor do I know any district that has their attorney prepare agendas. He did that too, and he charges for every meeting. He charges for every agenda. The other charges, if you take a look at the charges, I know from April on, probably most of the charges, except for the meetings, were calls made by conferences with Mr. Kilroy and Mr. Torrey. And a lot of them had to do with Jeff Palmer, I think. But that's for another day. But that's what those bills are. Please, I beg you, get those bills and look at them yourself. And now, for the real reason I stepped up here, I'm not going to be at the next meeting. I know that makes everybody unhappy. But I'm not going to be at the next meeting. And I wanted to thank Shauna. I think Shauna be given a hand, but as Mike said, not everybody will come to work here. She came to work here under this trying circumstances. She's been deluged with requests for documents, for example. She has been, most of them me.
I was going to say most of them.
I know.
That's why we're so close.
I even came one day and helped her make copies to save her time. But they were necessary at the time. But she's really, really been cooperative. She appears to be very, I'm also an attorney, I'm also an accountant, and very, very competent. She really is. And my discussions with her, and I think that we've been very, very blessed to have her fill in. She's did a great job. Thank you, Shauna.
Mr. Mandel, I'd like to just address, and again, I don't want it to be a question answered, but I find it difficult when someone's not here to defend themselves, to make those statements, okay? So here's what I would say to that. I'm inviting Mr. Podgorski. I'll ask Mr. Podgorski to waive his $185 fee because I think he deserves to defend himself. Because quite frankly, I think he's been a great service to this board, and we've made him out to be a villain tonight.
Can I cross-examine him?
Hey, Dan, I've got to say, I don't hear Podgorski attack.
Hold on a second.
I really don't hear that.
I'm not attacking. I am not attacking.
Gentlemen, I gave you the floor. Just give me a second to say my point, please. And I'm doing this out of politeness. I'm not being. I just think if that's a discussion that this board will have, and I think that we should, I think it's only fair to have the person that we're, for lack of better terms, accusing here to defend himself. That's only fair, because I would do it for you. Then I would do it for you.
Dan, that's a mischaracterization of what I've been saying. I'm not accusing Podgorski of anything
I'm
at
addressing
all.
Mr. Mandel, though.
I know, but my conversation is what you're referring to and the reasons for having Podgorski here. It's not for the benefit of Mr. Mandel that Podgorski would be coming.
But I disagree. That's not what the statement that I made. The statement is that pretty much that as a board we've been reckless in our spending of our legal fees. I'd like to address that. And you have made a statement that other boards have not spent that kind of money. Well, I don't know that to be true or not true. I'd like him to be able to present that. The other thing that I think that's important with this, we had this gentleman on our board meetings because I think it's unprecedented that every board meeting is filmed. I don't know that that's on YouTube. I have looked on YouTube to see if other boards are filmed. We want to make sure that we were correct in what we were doing. And we had to do our agendas because the agendas that the board president and the superintendent were preparing weren't what we would receive when we came here. That's why we amended those agendas a number of times. It just was a miscommunication from day one. So to that point, I think he should be here to at least defend what we're accusing him of doing. And that's only fair, you know?
Dan, let me tell you something. I have not accused Mr. Podgorski of one thing. Nothing. I'm accusing the board of overspending on legal fees when they don't have to. They had a process. I understand, and to address Mr. Torres, I think it was Jack, I'm not sure, the prosecutor's office are very competent, and for years they've represented us in other boards. They are competent. We have a case now with regard to copyright infringement. That would be like duck on water for them. But I haven't accused Podgorski of one thing. I accuse us of using them in conversations that they didn't have to. I'm accusing them, the board, of having them at every meeting when they didn't have to be preparing agendas. I'm not accusing him of anything. It's the spending. It's the people that are.
He's been here for 2 meetings and he hasn't prepared agendas. We're moving forward from that.
Well, that's a good change. I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see it. But I don't want to walk away from here as being with bad taste in my mouth. I came up here to thank Shauna for being here. Basically, that's the way I want to leave this.
Thank you. And you're our last. We save the best for last.
Thank you. Amy Rosenbaum, 13299 Shady Lane. I am a resident of the community for many, many years and an educator for the Euclid City Schools for the last 28 years. With all due respect, you have become the butt of many jokes. And it's sad, and it's hard to support the community outside the community when this occurs. I try my best. However, your vote tonight has proven and demonstrates that your commitment to our children will be beginning tonight. I want you to really, when you get a chance, to reread Mrs. Petronsky's remarks and know that you can do what is right and what is best by serving in this position. Thank you.
Thank you for the public remarks. Yes, sir. This is absolutely it.
Okay. No, it won't be that long.
Okay.
Carl Weiss, 11485 Christine Drive. That's one question. Is there any reason why you can't have open enrollment students from Geauga County only?
Yes, sir, there is. We've addressed this, I believe, at a public forum that Dr. Beers had presented. There are two ways to have open enrollment. One would be contiguous school districts, and right there wouldn't all be Geauga County. And the second is to be statewide. So for us to offer open enrollment to the students that we offer it, we have many that are from Richmond Heights, from South Euclid, and Flinders schools. We do statewide open enrollment. So there would be no way to confine it just to Geauga County, sir. We could do contiguous, but that would be, Kirtland would be contiguous, I believe, Mayfield would be contiguous, and those would be Lake County and Cuyahoga County. So that would make that, not.
Chagrin Falls is Cuyahoga County, so anybody that touches us would be contiguous.
Yeah, because Chagrin Falls, again, would be Cuyahoga County. So to answer your question. Okay, Treasurer's report, May financial reports. Shauna?
Yes. I have two great things to talk about. And the tuition revenue for May includes a payment from the Geauga County Board of MRDD for $400,000. This is an increase from what WestG received last year. It's an increase of about $26,000. And it's an increase of what was budgeted for the year. And also, in May, we applied through ODE for our catastrophic costs. That's a reimbursement we received from the state for our special education students. The past couple of years, the state has cut catastrophic cost reimbursement back to only 17% of what was applied for. This year, the state gave us 56% of what was applied for. In the month of June, we'll be receiving a payment of over $195,000 for our catastrophic costs, and we can only budget for $80,000. So we have a huge increase there in what the state has been giving us previous years.
That's excellent. So are you saying that we have a few extra dollars in our coffers?
Yeah.
Wow. This is a great day.
It's a great day.
Okay.
And thank you to Deborah she put a lot of work into the catastrophic costs.
You have the total increase? I'm sorry, just as a number, what was the increase?
We had budgeted for $80,000. We're going to be receiving $195,000. We'll be receiving that payment this month.
Awesome, thank you. And moving right to Treasurer's recommendations.
Yes, I have my May checks and my supplemental appropriations for the high school football cheerleaders of $2,500.
Do you need us to do a motion for that?
Yes.
Okay, I make the motion for the Treasurer's recommendations. High school cheerleader, $2,500. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Thorson?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore?
Yes.
Mr. Potowski?
Yes.
Dr. Phelps?
Yes.
Standing committee discussions. I'm not sure that we've had any committee meetings. I'm sorry, Mr. Nutter, Mrs. Story is asking about the treasurer's report, May financials. Do we have to vote to accept your May financials, or is it just a reporting?
I think that's
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I thought
thank you.
yours
We
was
wanna make
just
sure
to
that
do the
we're-
cheerleading thing.
Oh,
I didn't know.
yes.
There was no line item to vote here. Typically, after we will make a motion to accept and approve the treasurer's recommendations. And there wasn't, I don't know, do we also have to include May checks and all of that as well?
No, I think this vote approves.
His just approved the cheerleading, $2,500.
Oh.
So that's what I'm asking about. Is it necessary, Ben? I mean, you would know, in the past, have we typically voted to accept the treasurer's recommendations?
Yeah.
We have.
Why don't I make a motion to accept the May financial report
Okay,
and the
that's fine.
treasurer's recommendation?
Yeah, I did.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Or do I have a roll call?
Mr. Thorson?
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Mr. Katowski?
Yes.
Dr. Phelps?
Yeah.
Thank you. As far as standing committee discussions, has anyone had a committee meeting since our last meeting?
I have.
Okay.
And I touched base with, at the beginning, when we were talking about Ben, there's a huge packet. We're going to be, I believe, maybe doing our first reading at the next meeting or so. New laws and policies that are going to be in effect. I met with Tim and we went over them, Mr. Nutter and myself and Mr. Palmer. I had Tim take with him the recommendations that Ben had, and I also had him take the recommendations that were previously asked of me from 0123 to see if there's any room for cleanup in 0123. And he was going to review them and get back to me on those.
Awesome. Did he give you a time frame that he was doing that?
He did not.
I mean, since it took us 6 months to get a
Oh,
hold
yeah.
of him, would it take us 6 months to get that back? Probably.
Well, by the time he gets back to us, we will already have had a new stack of policy and stack documentation.
We're headed in that direction.
Yeah, oh, we are, because this is behind in a couple months, and so the next one has to be coming out any day.
Okay, to the audience, I'll introduce our new acting superintendent, Mike Nutter, and superintendent's recommendations. Mike?
Thank you. Under superintendent, you typically do A through J as a whole, or you
Explain each one.
A is personnel, and basically that are the personnel matters, staff appointments, renewal contracts, etc. B is certified contracts and classified contracts. Or C, those are basically salary schedules, placing people on the list, what they make. Approve overnight team camp, boys soccer at Edinburgh University. This is a school function, kids are spending the night before approval. Approval of middle school parent handbook is on there as well. I won't read that to you, but it's on there. And basically, item G, we just moved the date, 21st to 30th, for the contract with the treasurer. And the interdistrict service agreement with Lake County Educational Service Center, that's regards to preschool. And approve the renewal of the district commercial insurance package, and approve the contract of the transportation supervisor, which we are sharing with Newberry.
As everybody saw, and just in that one particular thing, did everyone see that in your packet, that we've actually hired a transportation supervisor, and we're using the shared services of Newberry? Okay. Just want to
And that
identify.
we will also be hiring part-time within there as well.
Correct.
Still at a savings of $8,000.
So by making that move, we're saving $8,000, and there's 2 people in that position. I think it was a win for us. Thank you, Mr. Russo, for that. Thank you, Mr. Russo. Nicely done. From the standpoint, I had a question. Can you hear me, Howard? Okay. I have a question from the standpoint of the Lake County Educational Service, the interdistrict service agreement. I'm sorry, Mike, what exactly is that for? I was reading through that. I wasn't sure. Get the breakdown.
You're going to take it. It's, I mean, several districts do this in different counties, but it's for the early childhood. You know, the areas for early childhood, they go to different programs, special needs, I mean, different types of programs for the little guys.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So it could be minutes.
I don't really have a question, but I just, I don't know, I'm sure you guys have by now, but for Mr. Douglas, when you see it's not working anyways, I don't think, so. When you see like these approval of overnight camps and things, you'll see them very frequently. There's no cost on our end. The team is taking care of the cost themselves. There's no financial impact on us as a district. It's just to inform us because they're going on a trip with the WestGB. So it's just for that, just so you know for the future. Sometimes you'll see these trips like, out of state.
I move to approve the superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Thorson?
Yes.
Dr. Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Katowski?
Yes.
Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore?
Yes.
Okay, now the announcement of the next board meeting, and we probably have to amend our agenda because we didn't put a date in here, don't we? But from that standpoint, we as a board need to meet again in June for some housekeeping, for lack of better terms.
For your fiscal year appropriations, needs to be approved by June 30th and to the auditor.
Right. Also, we have had some candidates for our treasurer's position. I would like to distribute that to the board and then maybe have them here for the board to ask some questions. Yeah. Just to see what you might think. Now, we are, as a board, needing to find a treasurer of record as of July 1st. So you're kind of under the gun. We are in a treasurer search for a permanent treasurer. However, it may be, to the board's approval, see, we have some ideas there. Mike and I have talked about some shared services. We've also talked about some candidates, but I'd like to bring the whole board into that discussion. Unfortunately, we haven't had much time to do that in reaction. So anybody that we would recommend, of course, we bring to the board, tell them how they got there, and then give everybody a chance to, to talk to them, address, and see what kind of information they can get. Okay? So what date necessarily works for all of us? I know that July's a mess for you, Jackie, but June-wise.
We have to meet in June.
It has to be
Anyways, it has to be.
Yeah.
But I mean, June-wise, is June look good? Dr. Phelps? Mr. Douglas?
One with the 23rd.
23rd?
That was the
week up?
And it was originally dated the other
Better?
Sooner rather than
Yeah.
later, because I'm leaving next week, so at some point, so sooner better.
And he was just saying she needed more time to prepare those
Yeah,
numbers. So,
because my cutoff date for expenses is tomorrow, so I can't even prepare them till after tomorrow,
Okay.
the appropriations. So,
could you be prepared by Monday?
Mondays, you couldn't do it Monday then? I mean, it shouldn't revolve around me, because next week on.
yeah. I can do Mondays.
Okay.
So the 23rd would work for our next board meeting. Now, we probably have to amend our agenda to add that date, I would think. So we need a motion to amend our agenda, would we? Or
Are you going, I mean, again, we're not going to get a board agenda again then until like the night before, because tomorrow's Friday already. You know what I'm saying? So we're not going to have time again, and we keep asking each other to be prepared and to read and not come with spontaneity. And if we're not going to get another agenda until the night before,
then perhaps we need to move that date back, but we wouldn't have Mr. Katowski.
well, when do you leave?
I
Could Tuesday
have
or
a little
Wednesday
bit of
be?
flexibility. Tuesday's better. It's an iffy situation that I won't explain, but
Sure.
I am leaving next week and at some point, and so I may not be able to be here for Tuesday or Wednesday. But I would say don't do this around me, because this has to happen. This meeting has to happen. So pick a date that's good for everybody, and I will try to be here.
Well, we also wanted to have our attorney there for the 3 items that you brought up. That would be important.
Yeah.
Could you be here Thursday
No,
or Friday? That would work.
that would work. But
How about, would it be too late to be the 30th?
We could, they have to be board approved by the 30th. I can have them there July 1st.
Okay, so the 30th, would that work for you? Because I'd really like to get some of these things addressed. Ben, I don't in the least bit want to push things off that you suggested. I want to be prepared, and I didn't think that I was. Just for me, I wasn't prepared. However, let's address this as soon as possible. If the 30th works for you, let's do the 30th. Would it work for the rest of the board? We do the 30th? Okay, let's work towards the 30th, and then you can be there, and I'll have Mr. Podgorski here. I'll ask him to be here on his own dime, and see how he feels about that. But at least we can address those things with him here. I feel more comfortable personally. Do we need to amend, Shauna, our agenda to say the 30th?
What's the 30th?
Monday.
Monday, this one.
No, a week from Monday.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Do we need to amend our agenda to add that date? I think we do.
There's no date in the agenda,
Yeah.
so I would say yes.
Okay, I make a motion to include the 30th under the announcement of the next board meeting.
I second that. Roll call?
Mrs. DeTore?
Yeah.
Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Mr. Potowski?
Yes.
Dr. Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Thorson?
Yes. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. DeTore?
Yeah.
Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Mr. Potowski?
Yes.
Dr. Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Thorson?
Yes.
You have to join the union, I'm telling you. Gotta get your after card.
How do you know I don't have it?
Because I've never seen